Hello everyone, and welcome to our project Death on a Paper. My name's Ichigonya, and I'm so glad to have you here for another video on the series Trauma Talk. In this series, we talk about a variety of topics relating to the science of mental trauma, how trauma develops, what factors impact its development, and how trauma itself changes the brain and its functionality. In this video, we'll dive into the topic of coping with trauma. I have been requested to talk about this side of trauma by a few people, which I'm super grateful for. If you guys have any subjects of discussion that you would want me to cover in future videos, please send them my way. Right now, I'm not taking any direct messages on Instagram, so please leave your ideas down in the comments here on YouTube instead. On the topic of how to cope with trauma, I'll be sharing my personal experiences with different coping mechanisms that have actually worked for me, mainly as assisted by mental health professionals in therapy. As much as we need to talk about the negative side of things, it's equally as important to shift the focus to healthy coping and recovery as well. I chose this topic for today's video partly because of the piece I'm working on in this speed paint. This illustration is titled Gratitude, and it's part of the Life Update series on my blog. Life Updates illustrations are depictions of current life events I've been experiencing, both in terms of my health and other aspects of my life. I've been attending DBT sessions regularly since November last year, and the treatment program is now coming to its end. I am so unbelievably grateful for the way DBT has helped me, and this piece depicts one aspect of that gratitude. If you want to know more about what's going on in my life right now, please read the blog post I've linked in the description box. As for DBT itself, I'll be talking about it more in this video. Sorry about the long intro. Now we can actually get to business. Firstly, it is important to acknowledge the fact that everyone copes with their trauma differently. We can divide coping mechanisms into unhealthy and healthy ones, but not every traumatized person will benefit from every healthy coping mechanism, just like not everyone benefits from certain unhealthy habits either. I have a very long history with trying to find the methods that fit me the best, and so far most of them have not worked for me. For this reason, I'm not going to be talking about the coping mechanisms that are the most well-known, like holding ice cubes or wearing a rubber band on your wrist. With that being said, if you personally benefit from these methods, that's amazing, and you should definitely keep doing them. My goal is to make you aware of some of the alternatives for these more well-known methods, because I know there's a lot of us who have tried them all a billion times and they just never worked. My experiences are defined by my illness, borderline personality disorder. This traumagenic personality disorder is a result of complex childhood trauma, meaning trauma that took place in your childhood and was prolonged over the span of several years and often severe in the type of abuse you endured. This makes coping with trauma a bit more difficult since the trauma doesn't show itself in the most common post-traumatic symptoms that are present in some other traumagenic disorders like PTSD, for example. I don't have to cope with flashbacks anymore, for example. I used to have them regularly, but I don't really have them anymore. The way my trauma shows itself in my everyday life is emotional dysregulation, intense episodes of self-destruction, grief and aggression, detachment from reality, suicidal behavior, unstable sense of self, black and white thinking, and problematic relationships. These are the problems I need help with coping. Every coping mechanism I'll go over in this video is somehow related to at least one of these symptoms. What is DBT then? What does that acronym mean? DBT, or dialectical behavior therapy, is a type of therapy used for people who struggle with emotional dysregulation, self-destructive coping mechanisms, tumultuous relationships, and other trauma-based problems. DBT is a part of the subcategory of behavior therapies, which all focus on problematic behavior, both in relation to others and ourselves. Another common behavior therapy type is CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy, which focuses on cognition and the way we can affect our well-being by training our brains to quote-unquote work in a different way, so to speak. DBT, on the other hand, is all about dialect, meaning all sorts of communication, both verbal and otherwise. DBT takes behavior therapies to a pragmatic level. You learn what practical things you can do to change the way you behave and feel. Like I said previously, I've been attending DBT appointments since November last year. I was so excited when I was picked out of all the people who applied for the program, like literal tears of joy. I've been waiting for a DBT for over a year at that point, and I knew it was the first step I needed in my treatment plan. Now that the program is coming to its end, after 18 weeks of intensive studying and practicing, I can say that I have learned a lot. I'm one of those people who love learning new things and studying, and I was literally so excited when I heard that we would have an actual workbook and fucking homework to do. This is not satire, I promise. I fucking love homework, you guys. I've had my university studies suspended since summer of 2022 because of my health. And the only thing I really miss about uni is the studying itself. So when DBT rolled around, I finally had something to keep my brain busy with, something else than art or my never-ending misery. Now that I've given you a brief introduction to the therapy program itself, I want to go over my favorite DBT skills, meaning behavior patterns that have helped me the most in my everyday struggles, particularly related to my trauma. I hope you'll find some of these interesting or worth trying, though I do need to remind you of the fact that I am not a medical professional, and me talking about DBT is only based on my personal experience with the program. It's completely different to actually attend the program than read about it online or listen to some weirdo online talk about it. My first introduction to DBT was the content the BPD community on Instagram made about it, and while that might have helped me a little, actually going there was what really made a difference. So if any of these skills sound interesting to you, please do consider reading about DBT more and considering if it might be something you would actually benefit from, because DBT is not only for those with BPD. I really want to stress this point here. A lot of people with eating disorders, for example, find the program super helpful for its focus on complex trauma and self-destructive coping mechanisms. Okay then, let's start with the first set of skills. The very first set of skills we learned in DBT was called awareness skills. I absolutely fell in love with these, even though at first I was not interested in them in any sort of way, but my God, have they really helped me. There are multiple skills in this group, but the one that has helped me the most is practicing participation. Participation refers to the act of actively taking part in your own life. It might sound stupid at first, but what it really means is that you really focus on the current moment, your life in the present time, and actively direct your attention to the tasks you do. This helps a lot with feelings of loss of control. Trauma makes many of us feel like we are not in control of our own lives. Things have just happened to us and we had no say in any of it, especially in the case of childhood trauma. But practicing participating in your life can help you gain that sense of control again. You notice that you can actually control yourself and your life, and by focusing on the good things you can do for yourself instead of the unhealthy coping mechanisms trauma has made you develop, your overall well-being can improve as well. Another thing that participation has really helped me with is dissociation. I am diagnosed with dissociative disorder. It's a separate diagnosis because my dissociation is so severe it can't fall under the BPD symptoms anymore. Dissociation causes me to feel completely detached from reality, myself, my thoughts and feelings. There are no days in my life that I do not experience dissociation. It's an everyday struggle, and when it gets really bad, long periods of severe dissociation cause me to forget everything. I suffer from chronic amnesia. I have gaps in my memory as long as several months due to dissociation. It's very common for me to just forget what I was doing earlier this week, who I have talked with and about what, so then I end up repeating the same shit to my friends and family. It is so embarrassing. But practicing participation has helped me with grounding myself tremendously. If you struggle with dissociation, you're probably aware of the more common grounding methods used for it. You might benefit from them, but if your situation is of the similar severity as mine, they might not be enough for you anymore. But the awareness skills, especially active participation, really helps with that. Now, I want to go over my favorite participation techniques. These are not the only ways to practice the skill, only the ways that I have benefited from the most. Firstly, when doing the dishes, direct your attention to the physical sensations in your hands. Focus on the way the warm water feels, maybe it's burning your hands a little. Focus on how the soap makes the dishes feel slippery and smooth. Have your attention in the movements of your hands when brushing the dishes and the movement of the water as you work. Second, when going to bed, focus on the way the sheets feel against your body. Feel the weight of the blanket as it's resting on your body. Think of how the sheets and the duvet are protecting you, embracing you, and accepting you as you are. Thirdly, do things not because you have to, but because you want to. Dance and sing along to your favorite songs. It doesn't matter if you're good at what you do. Taking part in your life is all about reclaiming control. And by doing whatever you want to do for the sheer enjoyment of it, you are reclaiming that control. Moving on from the skills of awareness, let's talk about crisis skills. These methods are used for crisis situations, when something suddenly extremely upsetting happens and you have to survive without harming yourself. Please note, crisis skills are not meant for regular everyday situations because other DBT skills can usually help you with them. This was something that I needed to really internalize, that not every emotional outburst is a crisis, no matter if I feel that way or not. But these skills have really helped me with my self-destructive behaviors. A lot of trauma survivors struggle majorly with things like self-harm or disordered eating habits to cope with the toll trauma has taken and continues to take on them. Crisis skills can be used in situations where you feel extremely suicidal, for example. Trauma makes us, especially those of us with emotional dysregulation, feel like there is no other way out of the pain than just stop existing altogether. Complex childhood trauma strips us of control, and the aftermath continues that cycle, sometimes to very unfortunate results. If you struggle with self-destructive behaviors of any kind, not just cutting, these skills might be something to consider. Again, I would highly encourage you to talk to a professional as well, but these are the methods that have helped me the most. First, let's talk about the stop skill. The stop skill is extremely useful in conflicts with other people. A lot of trauma survivors have problems with boundaries and ways of regulating their emotions, which sometimes results in aggressive outbursts and other hurtful behavior. Use the stop skill instead of going off on other people. If you have gone through trauma, you have the responsibility of making sure the cycle of abuse stops at you. Also, explosive behavior only results in problems with the people you love the most. So, in order to take care of yourself as well as others, using the stop skill is really useful. The acronym goes as follows. S is for stop, T is for take a step back, O is for observe, and P is for proceed mindfully. As you feel the strong emotions bubbling up, stop before you act. Then take a step back, remove yourself from the situation, let the other people know you'll come back to them later. You can think of this as a timeout too. Give yourself a timeout to collect yourself and calm your emotions before lashing out. Then observe the situation. What happened? What caused you to feel the emotions? Who did what? What were the reasons for those actions? And what were the intentions? Reminding yourself of the reality of the situation is crucial so that you don't get sucked into mistaken interpretations that can lead to problematic behavior. Then at the end, proceed mindfully. Keep all of your observations in mind as you enter the situation again, and be mindful of your words and actions. Mindful communication is key in resolving conflicts in a healthy way. Another crisis skill I want to go over is called the tip skill. The tip skill has helped me with emotional dysregulation and self-destruction. If you have ever struggled with self-harm, you're probably very familiar with the regular suggestions to replace self-harm with, holding an ice cube and the like. Many of us who are trauma survivors find these practices null and pointless, especially if you've been coping with self-destructive behavior for a very long time. Snapping a rubber band against your wrist won't do jack shit for you. For that reason, the tip skill is more intense. This is a skill you can use when in a crisis situation that might lead to you harming yourself. The acronym goes like this. T is for temperature, I is for intensive physical activity, and P is for paced breathing and paired muscle relaxation. As the situation is reaching its breaking point, try regulating the temperature of your body. One way of doing this is putting your face in ice cold water and holding your breath there for 15 to 30 seconds. In this time, your body will start to slow down its vital functions like heartbeat. The mind and the body are connected to each other, and those intense emotions that people with BPD especially feel cause extreme physical reactions too. So regulating your body temperature with ice-cold water and holding your breath for several seconds will not only calm down those physical reactions but also the emotions themselves. I have done this when I felt the need to engage in self-destructive behavior, and bro, it fucking works. Please try it out. If you want to exercise a lot, you might want to see if intensive physical activity helps you in crisis situations. Exercise intensely to the point that you can feel your heartbeat, you break a sweat, and your breathing is labored. Again, what the body feels is connected to the mind, and by engaging in intense physical activity, you'll force your mind to focus on things like breathing instead of whatever was causing those emotions. However, I have to put this disclaimer out there. Do not do this if you have heart problems, have high blood pressure, are on medication that causes changes in your cardiovascular system, are malnutritioned, or struggle with eating disorders. Intensive physical activity might trigger you more in these cases than help you. We're all probably aware of at least a few breathing exercises. For a lot of trauma survivors who have severe mental health problems, the regular breathing pattern stuff doesn't always work. I should know, I absolutely fucking hate breathing exercises. But if you want to test an alternative to this, you might want to try out paced breathing and paired muscle relaxation. Slow down the pattern of your breathing. Your exhale should take longer than your inhale. Pair this paced breathing with tensing up your muscles and relaxing them. As you inhale, tense up your muscles, feel the tension in your body, and then relax your muscles as you exhale. The last set of skills I want to go over are the skills of acceptance of reality. These skills can help you find peace with yourself and the reality you are living in today. Sometimes there are things in our lives that we can't change, no matter how bad we want to. Practicing skills like radical acceptance can help you live with these things without them consuming you. Now, a very important disclaimer. Acceptance is not the same thing as justification. You will never have to find justification for circumstances and events in your life that are unjust, period. Radical acceptance is very daunting for a lot of us, especially trauma survivors. Does it mean that I have to just accept the fact that I was abused and be okay with it? The answer, no. Acceptance is about letting go of bitterness, giving up the fight that has no winners. When you radically accept the reality you live in today, you will also let go of the negative emotions attached to these factors, because staying in denial does not change reality. What does radical acceptance look like for trauma survivors then? When you're traumatized, your past life experiences have altered the way in which you think, feel, see yourself in relation to others, and vice versa. A lot of the time, you might find it very difficult or downright impossible to accept your situation. Why did those things happen to me? Why do I have to suffer like this? That is where radical acceptance comes to play. Observe the way in which your trauma affects you today. Think of the hardships you face in your daily life because of your trauma. Now, approach these things with acceptance. They are a part of your life. You can't change the way your trauma has altered your brain. By denying these hardships, you are making it impossible for yourself to recover. First, you have to accept the reality you're living in today. Only then can you find the road to change. When thinking about radical acceptance as a trauma survivor, please don't think that you have to accept the traumatizing events themselves in the way that it was okay that it happened to you. Don't think that you have to accept the fact that you were abused. What you do have to accept is the aftermath of that situation, your mental health struggles, etc. And remember, acceptance is not the same as justification. And as the very last skill, let me introduce you to half smile. This might sound a bit strange at first, but I've made these sprites for you to refer to so you understand what the fuck is up with this. First, start by scrunching up every muscle in your face. Go for the raisin look, very sly. Then let go of the tension, relax your face muscles to the point of letting your mouth open. Focus on the relaxed feeling in your brow area especially. Then lastly, close your mouth and tug at the corners of your mouth ever so slightly. This is not a smile, don't try to actually smile. Just tug at the corners of your mouth enough for you to feel it. You can look at yourself in the mirror, there should be no smile there. So, what's the point of this? I'll admit, when I first heard of half smile, I thought it was stupid as hell. But there's a very real purpose to this. Like I said previously, your body and mind are connected to each other, and physical sensations affect your mind as well as the other way around. The half smile is a relaxed sensation on your face, and with the tugging of the corners of your mouth, it feels like you are almost smiling. Smiling sends positive signals to your brain because it's a reflex of happiness and joy. When you put on your half smile, you are signaling to your brain to be open and relaxed, and maybe even a bit positive too. And yes, it does work. I've used it a lot, and my god, does it do a number on me. Please try it out, it's very fun. So, in conclusion, dialectical behavior therapy is wonderful for trauma survivors. It can teach you so many ways of coping with your trauma and, as we like to say, make your life worth living again. There are so many other skills too, but these are my favorites and they've helped me a lot, and I hope you try some of them out. As a reminder, you really don't have to have BPD or even be severely traumatized to find these skills useful. Actually, every person should know about these because through multiple psychological researches, it's being discovered that these behavior patterns truly do help you live a healthier life for your mind. Okay, yeah, that's it for today's video. It was a bit a longer one. Hope it wasn't too boring or anything. Please share your thoughts with me in the comments below. Have you been to DBT? Did this video spark up your interest for it? How do you cope with your mental health problems? Please share your thoughts and opinions with me and everyone else. We can learn so much from each other. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting these podcast type of speed paint videos a few times a month as my health allows me to. Also, check out the links to my other socials, Instagram being the main one, and also my blog. Then there's the coffee, art shop, and everything else, you know all that. I hope you have a relaxing day today. Take care of yourselves. My name is Ichigonya, and this has been our project Death on a Paper.